Welcome to the Transforming Trauma podcast. Transforming Trauma is presented by the Complex Trauma Training Center. I'm your host, Emily Ruth, and I'm so glad you've joined us today. Licensed mental health professionals, we warmly invite you to join our Spring 2026 NARM Therapist Training, a live online immersion into the transformative power of the neuroaffective relational model. This advanced clinical training is designed specifically for those seeking to deepen their expertise in healing complex trauma while offering the accessibility of an online format. From January to August 2026, you'll be part of a supportive virtual community of learners integrating mindfulness and clinical expertise. Through 4 comprehensive modules, you'll gain specialized trauma-informed knowledge and skills to confidently and compassionately address the impacts of adverse childhood experiences and complex trauma. Together, we'll explore how to support the resolution of attachment, developmental, relational, cultural, and intergenerational trauma using a neurobiologically informed approach that promotes post-traumatic growth. Embodying professional and personal growth, you'll become a catalyst for transformation in your practice and community. Enrollment is now open for licensed psychotherapists, counselors, social workers, psychologists, and other mental health professionals, as well as graduate trainees and interns working toward licensure. Visit complextraumatrainingcenter.com to learn more and secure your spot in this online training opportunity. And now for our interview. My guest today is Frank Meeink, a speaker, author, and activist known for his work confronting racism and violent extremism. He's the author of Autobiography of a Recovering Skinhead, and his story has been featured in documentaries, including Steven Spielberg's Why We Hate, and across major media outlets. Frank is a co-founder of Life After Hate, supporting people leaving hate groups, and a recipient of the Anti-Defamation League's Civil Rights Hero of the Year award. He has also testified before the United States Congress on white supremacist infiltration in law enforcement. Please enjoy my conversation with Frank Meeink. All right. I am joined today by Frank Meeink. Welcome to Transforming Trauma.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's so great to have you. I've been looking forward to this conversation. And I'd love to begin by asking, what would you like our listeners to come away with from our conversation today?
I think I want people to take away, and they could do as they please. I don't tell anybody what to do anymore. It's the thing in my life. But the gift that I learned is that the trauma that I've been through, the best thing I get to do now is help somebody else, be of service to somebody else, right? I'm very active in the rooms of recovery. And the best thing you could do is when a new person comes into the rooms and they're talking about how they just lost their house and their wife is divorcing them and they lost their job and their license is suspended, and and I get to go, me too, man. That happened to me too. And we give people so much when you say that to them. When people are going through some really hard times and you say, me too, it makes people go, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not that crazy, right? And it's the most powerful thing we get to do with each other as human beings. So whatever your trauma is, just know that somehow, some way, it could be used to help another human being.
It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Frank. I'm really excited to kind of dig in here. And so for folks that might not be aware of your work, can you share a little bit about where you are, who you are, what you're doing?
Oof. That's a long answer, but it's a good answer.
Start with who you are. Who are you?
Yeah. So again, so most people know me as I'm a former white supremacist. I was a white supremacist back in the late 80s, early 90s, and then got out and then helped form organizations and groups to help get other people out of the far right and other extremist groups. So I did that for a long time. And then I got into recovery after many tries and fails at recovery. And today I have a really cool job. My main job, my 9-to-5 job, is that I work for an organization called SHARE, which is the Self-Help and Recovery Exchange, and it's here in Los Angeles. And we're basically an organization that is all people in recovery. And we have a couple community centers where people can come and just hang out, use computers, go to meetings, do whatever they need. And then there's people like me that are peer support specialists. And so we help navigate that. But the cool job that I have is that we've actually been contracted through Apple. And so I work at the Apple store by downtown LA, right by Skid Row. And whenever unhoused people or people that look like they're high or maybe not just not right come into the store, because Apple doesn't want to kick people out, um, they're secure. Me and I work with their security team. I act as basically like a fake customer. And when they come in the store and they're either playing on a phone or playing on a computer or just charging their phone, I just go over and I just spark conversation. And then I have a book bag full of resources, places to go to meetings, places for housing, places for showers, some legal information if you need to get a hold of people that will help take care of bench warrants or any of that type of stuff. And so I just spark conversation and act as a so it's undercover recovery, and I get to do that on a daily basis in
That
my
is
work.
so cool. I'm feeling so touched right now. Undercover recovery. That's so cool. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
So, and then I'm very active in. Some people know I'm very active in. I'm a religious person, or I'm a spiritual person, and I'm also very active in. I believe that in our country we have an issue that people don't we don't talk about them enough, and it somehow has become political. But we have a really bad mass incarceration problem in America. Just so people understand, when I say that, the numbers are outrageous. Do you know that we have 30% of the world's women's prison population, but we're only 5% of the world's population? Right? And I believe a lot of that can be changed through police reform, traffic stop scenarios, looking to fill county jails. And people don't know this, but over the last 30 years, it used to be state prisons were here and county jails were here with numbers. And over the last 30 years, because of privatization and all different, the county jails have caught up to the prisons, and then we have private prisons. It's a whole. So one of the things I'm very active in is being involved in the communities that are trying to help curb mass incarceration, which is also a calling, I believe, from the God that I serve today.
Thank you. Gosh, you're really involved. You're doing a lot of things, and so I want to just check in with you. What feels kind of top of heart in this moment? What would you like to? Where would you like to begin? Maybe.
I'd like to begin is that I was born and raised with parents who were addicts, and for a long time that kept my addiction going, right? And I know this happens for a lot of people. I know I'm not special. Is that, for a long time, deep down inside, I blamed like my addiction and my bad behavior or whatever. It was like, because look at where I was raised, and my parents didn't care, or da, 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 da. And the thing that I had to learn later on in life, when I really got based into a real recovery, was that I learned that, my parents did the best they could. They just didn't know no better. And it sucks the way I was raised. It's absolutely sucks. But if I kept having that resentment inside of me, I don't truly heal. And that one of the ways I've learned to heal is that for me to truly heal is that I have to really be honest with my spiritual advisors in my life, with people that are also walking the road of recovery, like being honest with myself. That I only got better as the more honest that I was with myself
Mm.
and with others. And so, and I know sometimes that's really hard because as human beings, sometimes we like to have resentments. Sometimes it's almost like a ball of yarn with a cat. Like you just let me bat it around a little bit more this time. You know, you have the arguments in my head where one of these days I'm going to get all the people who've done me wrong, and I'm going to get them, and I'm going to sit them down, and they're going to admit to all the bad that I think they've done to me. And I have the argument in my head sometimes, like, oh yeah, you remember you did this, and they're going to all finally one day go, Frank, you're right. We did do these things to you, and that's not real. But it's things that I would drive in my car and I would think about.
Yeah.
Someday they're going to, and it doesn't happen, and I have to let it go. I have to let that stuff go and know that people did the best they could. And that the other thing is I had to learn that I have to stop taking things so personally,
Mm.
right? People are just living their own lives. People didn't do things and say, you know what, I'm really going to just screw Frank over and I'm going to do this, which hurt my feeling. No, sometimes they were just doing things for themselves. And so the last thing I'll say about that is, and this is a gift that I got from the creator, my creator. You, again, don't try to push any religion or nothing on anybody. It's your path, your path. But something I do these God walks every morning. I give myself about an hour before I go do anything. I go take this walk and I pray and I acknowledge it's the creator's world, not my world. But he gave me, it doesn't matter if you call him boy, girl. My God doesn't care. He's not that petty. Um, but he gave me a secret, and that was he gave me the word stay. And I use the word stay all the time. And stay stands for STAY. Stop thinking about yourself.
Mm.
Other people, like when you're walking and you think about how I texted John yesterday and John didn't text me back. And now I'm like, you know what? F John. You know what? You know what? I noticed the other day John gave me a dirty look when we were at this meeting together, and and I start running in my head about all the bad things that because John didn't do what I wanted. And you know what I found out? John was just busy. He
Mm.
didn't have time to get back to me because John doesn't think about me the way I think about me, and he didn't do it personally, right? I'm able to let those things go today and know that okay, well, if I hear from John, I hear from John. It's not a big deal. So, so stay is a big part of my life. I say it to myself a lot during the day
Okay.
because I'm a drug addict alcoholic who has those type of issues.
Yeah.
That's alcoholism and drug addiction, and for people that are stuck in all those types of addictions, the root of it that I've come to find out, you can find your own way, but from all the people that I work with in this field, is that it is about self-centeredness. That we deep down inside there's this low self-esteem and self-centeredness that is in us. That's what makes people addiction very prevalent in a lot of us human beings today. So anyway, I went on a long rant there.
No, I'm so appreciating. There's a couple things. Is it okay if I kind of reflect some of the things that are landing for
Hey,
me right now in this
please,
moment?
please.
I'm thinking back to earlier when you were talking about like this pain, the pain of feeling like your needs were unmet or your childhood, your environment failed you. And I'm hearing you like speak to the legitimacy of that. Like it was legitimately a rough upbringing for you and speaking to this pain. And I wonder, maybe I'm jumping ahead and we can like come back to it if it feels right later. But I'm holding curious right now this idea of like what supported you to come from this place of feeling so much pain to being able to feel compassion for your parents, for example. But obviously your life story, there's so much that we want to talk about. And I wonder if that's, so I'm sort of just putting that theme on the table of like,
Okay.
how did you move from this place of really feeling into the pain to being able to feel compassion, not only for yourself, but for others? So maybe that's something we can talk about.
Sure, sure. If you want, we can
Yeah.
go in the DeLorean now and go in the future, or we can.
Well, maybe, okay, so let's hold that because I realized I started talking about, I'm like, well, I actually think this relates to some other things that we want to talk about. So
Sure.
would it be okay if we kind of continued forward with your story? So you mentioned you had a really rough upbringing. Can you
Yes.
continue from there? Like what did life look like into maybe your teens and your 20s?
Yeah, so when I was about 14, I got into this group of, again, I was passed back and forth between mom and dad, two different neighborhoods in Philly. I wound up at 13 settling with my dad in a pretty rough neighborhood, went to an all black school, fist fighting with black kids all the time. Not, I mean, I had some friends at school too, but it was a rough school in a really rough neighborhood. And that summer, I had the opportunity to go into the farm country of Pennsylvania, where I had a cousin who was kind of involved in this neo-Nazi white supremacist stuff, and I started hanging out with these guys, and I was like, you usually talk all this racist stuff, and most of them don't really live around black people, so I was like, I. I lived this life. What do And so I enjoyed being around these guys because I would tell them about what it's like growing up in this neighborhood. And I could tell you that having these guys just listen to me and engage with me, if I was back home and I walked in my house, because I was always an athlete growing up too, but I was also always fighting and always in trouble. But if I came home with a black eye or a trophy, neither of my parents would say, "How'd you get that, son?" where'd this come from? What are you doing? They never asked me these questions. So when these neo-Nazi guys would be like, "Oh, what's it like growing up around black people? And do you take the train with black people?" And I got to tell them all this stuff. It was someone saying to me, "How's your life, dude?" Right? And so of course, I
I'm
love that.
curious. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I would hang around these neo-Nazis, people were scared of them. And now I might be this 14-year-old want to be tough, athletic kid, skateboarder kid. But the honest, deep down inside, I was a scared little boy. Man, I was abused at home. There was stuff going on that was so crazy. Um, so I was really scared. I was scared of my school. I was scared of my parents. I was scared of my step parents. I was scared if I was going to have enough food to eat sometimes. Now, when I hung out with these neo Nazis, people feared me. Now, they really don't fear me. They fear the guys I'm with. But I like that. And I know there's listeners going to say, that's sick. I wasn't well. I wasn't well. There was something not right. And so I really enjoyed being part of this movement. And I got very active in the movement and went on to go do many things in the movement, running crews and living in safe houses and living throughout compounds all around. I didn't go to high school as a kid. That was my high school years were spent living with neo-Nazis all around the country. I mean, I literally lived all around the country with neo-Nazi groups as a kid. Parents weren't involved and just did whatever I wanted. So, anyhow, I wound up, eventually getting out of that stuff. I had some pretty amazing and traumatic things happen to me where I was like, wait a minute, this isn't working for me. And just to put it in a real easy way, imagine truly believing that just because of the color of my skin and my heritage, I'm better than another human being on this planet is so ignorant to me now. But back then it was the core of my being, right? I got to be proud of something that I had nothing to do with. My parents just both happened to be Caucasian people, right? I didn't achieve anything. I'm running around screaming about how proud I am of this. I didn't do anything to do it. It was the most easiest, laziest thing I could be proud of, something I had nothing to do with. So just know that my mind frame had changed. And anyway, got very active in civil rights work and being against that movement. That's kind of the human being I am. People have always said, you're just kind of an activist. That's who, it's your nature of your being. There's people that are like me, and I'm not special. There's a lot of people like me. I was always an activist. It was for the white people. And then when because I thought I was being an activist, and then I got into it. But the thing is that I couldn't stay sober. I struggled for years of my life. I have 6 years now. So it wasn't like when I was in the neo Nazis, we couldn't do drugs. I was part of this movement that was very anti drug with a lot of drinking, and I was an alcoholic, big time alcoholic. And then when I got out of the neo-Nazi movement, I was like, oh, I can do drugs now. It was like this new freedom. And of course, hear about people that like have abusive homes or very confined parents. And then when they finally get out, they go crazy, right? And that's what I almost was. And then I picked up a bunch of very bad habits with that. Um, and would get clean time. I would get sober. I was in rehab so many times and just couldn't get it, and struggled. And for anyone that's listening who have people that are in addiction in their lives, or if you're it yourself, I was so tired of. I would get sober for a little bit and I would build up a big, beautiful life and do great things. I mean, I really was doing some amazing things. Like God was allowing me to do these things. And then I burn it down in front of everybody. And that truly hurt the people around me. And I didn't mean to be that guy. Just as many people that might listen to this, we don't mean to be those people. I didn't mean to hurt the ones around me. I just kept slipping. And it's, I didn't have the willpower that people talk. I didn't have it. I don't even know who Will is. My name is Frank. So when people talk about willpower, I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. It just wasn't there. And so finally, burnt my life to the ground about 6 years ago, one last time. Lost everything. I was a hockey coach, I loved that job. I had so many amazing jobs in my life. For an uneducated person, I worked in radio. I worked for professional hockey teams. I helped run civil rights organizations. Um, I coached competitive hockey, like traveled with teams all over the country. Didn't even have competitive hockey coaching experience until I got the job. And and was speaking all around the world about anti-Semitism and de-radicalization, and was doing interventions on neo-Nazis. And again, kept burning these things down to the ground. Burnt my marriage to the ground. And so fast forward on the end was um, 2014, probably the worst 5 years of my life started. Now, you would think the neo-Nazi stuff and the prison stuff and growing up horribly was the worst years. It wasn't. I was married with children. I lived in Iowa. I had a big house. My wife was, a person working in the financial industry. I'm running around writing a book. I wrote a book about my life, and which done pretty well. And um, uh, speaking and hockey and all this stuff. And then my son dies in a car accident. And then my mom dies of a fentanyl overdose. Then my best man at my wedding kills himself. And then his older brother somewhat killed himself, basically drank himself to death, and slow killing of himself. A colleague of mine at my one of my civil rights organization kind of did me really, really dirty, and really, really hurt me, and yeah, it was just a lot of things. And then I'm getting a divorce from my wife. This is like this 5 year span where I'm, again, in the midst of it, I'm like working with Steven Spielberg on documentaries. I'm doing this, but at home, and my foundation was just shaking and shattering, and I couldn't stop it. And then I started using again. So that's my defense. I did not defense to defend what I was using, but that was the defense to help my inner
Yeah.
being. They say with alcoholic and drug addicts, there's that function in our brain. Everyone, normal people have like fight, flight, flight or freeze. And the addicts have one extra thing. It's fight, flight, freeze, or use when we're in those situations.
Yeah. And in the work that I do, we call it survival strategies. You are
Hmm.
surviving.
Right.
Yeah.
Because all I ever wanted to do with my addiction was I just wanted to change the channel in my head.
Oh.
Because, and I don't know if it's okay to curse, but this is the best way I can describe it. So I'm just going to say it. In my head, and this goes for a lot of drug addict alcoholics and other people with these type of issues, is that in my head, I'm either I just bounce back and forth, and and most of the time, if I'm not using my drug of choice or indulging in that behavior, I feel like a piece of shit because I've already done harm and done damage, and I can't get rid of that. Or when I start to use, I start, all right, things are good. Things are good. This is cool. And so anyway, that really spun out into a moment that I had in a car where lost everything again. And this is where I hope a lot of people with addictions come to this moment, because this is the key, I believe, for people to truly get recovery. Was I sat in that car, I sat in a car, and I couldn't go home anymore. Just everything was gone. And as I sat in this car, I screamed out to God, because for the first time I realized it's all me. This is all me. It's not my parents, the way they raised me. It's not that I grew up around thugs as a kid and thought they were the cool men in my life. That all happened, but that's not their fault. It's not the fault of my wife, who, for whatever reasons, because of my addiction and because of her reasons, whatever. I don't need to bring her story into it, but because of some things, we're getting a divorce. It's on me. And in that car, I was screaming up to God to please kill me, because I couldn't take this pain anymore. I was screaming, and it was just this most surrealist moment in my life where I had the gift of desperation, the God, gift of desperation. And I had this little moment with God as I screamed up to him to please kill me. And he said, nope, I got a job for you. And that was the spiritual experience, what started to my spiritual awakening. So.
Wow, Frank, I'm so thankful that you're using your voice, that you're sharing your experience with us. It's so rich, and it's really I'm feeling touched. And I'm also just thinking about because I've read some of your work, and I was this the moment, the everything to lose and nothing to hold on to moment? Is that
Mhm.
okay?
Yep. Everything was gone. And it
Yeah.
was either uh, change, like truly change. And actually, there was this voice that came to me and was like, get to California, I work for you. And there was an older man here. And by the way, so people, I think I am wearing my kippah. In this time, I also found out I was Jewish through DNA. So there had been this older Jewish man in Los Angeles that I met years and years ago through the rooms of recovery. I could be honest about that, where he had always told me he would help me. He's like, I can help men like you. You have this disease really bad. And I called him and said, okay, I'm going to come out, and basically you're going to be my recovering rabbi. Um, and I moved, and to this day, I talk to that man twice a day, once to twice a day. I talk to him. Um, uh, because I'm a grown man, but I have to talk to another grown man because I don't know how to do this thing. And in the last 6 years of working with this man and doing the recovery life and also adapting Judaism into my life, I've come to some real major life changing things that have made it that I just here to be of service. And I have literally the best life I could ever ask for right now. The last 6 years have been amazing. And it's all about a life of service, and that Hashem or God will take care of all the things in the background if I just go out and make sure I plan on being of service today to all his children struggling with whatever extremism, drug addiction, alcoholism, whatever might be your thing. I'm pretty versed in a lot of that stuff. And my job is just to be of service, not a know it all, just be of service. And I live really the beautiful life. Just got married 5 months ago to an amazing woman, so who has her own story. And so, anyhow, that's what's happened in the last 6 years.
Wow, Frank. I'm thinking about like how that moment in the car when it just sounds like you really decided to take on, like, to acknowledge your own agency
Hmm.
and your capacity to shift, that you've gotten yourself into your life in certain situations, and I'm going to make choices to get out of those situations. That's what I'm hearing. Does that
Yeah,
land for you? Does that feel true?
it does a little bit. I don't want to give myself too much credit
Okay.
because it's more, and I don't want to get too religious because I don't push it, but it was truly with a dependence upon a higher Um, that's like the rooms of recovery. People always say, "Oh, it's a self help." No, it's not. It's a please ask God for help.
Mm.
That's you know, and that's really what I mean. I can't take credit. Like I can honestly say I'm a tough guy. I'm a hockey guy. I'm a street fighter. All these great. I'm a tough guy. That happened to me on this earth, but the strength I never had. I never had. I had toughness, but I never strength. And now Hashem said, "I'll give you some strength if you want to do this work for me." So I just can't take the credit. I don't know why. It's not. I did nothing but burn my own life to the ground many times over. So, but I get it.
Yeah, but I mean, in that, I'm hearing that you chose to follow that path. You chose
Yes,
to kind of listen to the call. Maybe is
yes,
maybe another way to
yeah,
say it.
yeah, and yeah, and things needed to change.
Yeah.
That's right. Things needed to change. It wasn't going to stay the same. Um, you know. So yeah, and it didn't happen in that moment. That moment started it, where I was like, okay, I got to realize that I can't do. You know, the one thing I like to say about myself for the longest time, I was a self-deprecating narcissist. Tried to, that's
Sure.
like I would sit around with normal people and then tell them about my drug adventures, and we had a normal dinner, right? And then because I want to be the center of the attention all the time, I wanted to be the life of the party and funny, and so let me tell you some crazy drug stories about me. And these are normal people where they're like, okay. And then later on, one of the people would be at the table, be like, talking about, oh, we have this great opening at our business for this job. And I'd be like, oh, I'm good at that. I should. And the guy would be like, didn't you just tell me all them stories? Like, I don't. No, you know? And then I'm hurt. See, that's where the narcissism and self-deprecation is now I'm hurt that you are hearing what I was saying about me, and now you're kind of saying it back to me, and now it hurts my feelings. And so I had to really look at the way that I talked about myself, the way that I always had to interject. Um, one of the things, I really learned, and this is something that I learned, and is that I really had to embrace what real humility is. Like I didn't know, I was one of those guys like, I'm so humble, let me tell you all about it, or and when I really learned, and this comes to my recovering rabbi, my sponsor, who said, you really need to embrace what humility is. This is about 2 years into my recovery. And so what I did, and anyone can do this, is on my God walks that I was talking about, I started listening to like different rabbis and different imams and different priests and you name it, all types of people that had great speaking things on YouTube about humility. And I would just listen to them on my God walk. And what was so great is I heard so many amazing things. But there was one key element I kept hearing, and that was be quiet. You don't need to always say something. You don't need to be the guy at the table always poking jokes at everybody. Or, like, just be quiet. And then I'm like, but how are people going to love me if I don't talk so much? And then what I noticed? People today really enjoy being around me. And I'm not the center of the attention, right? And if I act with humility today, I'm not humiliated by my behavior tomorrow. And that was a key for me. To not be humiliated by, oh, why did I tell that story? Oh, why did I say that at that party last night? Why did I do? If I just answer when people talk to me, add to their stories, ask deeper questions about what they're talking about. Don't always, whenever they say, well, and I did this, and I go, oh, well, I climbed that mountain too. Just be like, oh, that's great. And how'd you feel? You know, and people tend to enjoy being around me today.
Frank, I'm just so struck by because we heard you say there was such a lack of curiosity in your childhood from your caregivers, from your parents. And I'm wondering what helped you make that shift from giving others something that you never received? Because I think that's a really big deal when we didn't receive that, curiosity or
Mhm.
genuine interest. It makes sense to me why for a long time it's like you needed that attention or you
Mhm.
needed that someone else to be curious about you. But I'm wondering what supported that shift for you. Do you have a sense of that?
You know, um, I think what it was when I started to build my own self-esteem and my own, and worked on that low self-esteem, those little character defects in me, because that's what it was. Like, I know that what happened when my parents was bad, right? But that built a character defect in me for my own defense to be like, hey, look at me, and when I had enough self-esteem and uh, good knowledge of myself and some discernment, I was able to not have to go, "Hey, look at me," and, um, I don't know. I mean, it was just building a good, uh, you know, the lack of low self-esteem that started to build in me, or not a lack of, because that's a negative, but, it was that the self-esteem issues that I had, I started to work on them to where I know that if I talk too much, it's because I'm probably usually my own low self-esteem, and so I have good
Okay.
self-esteem today. I have a
Okay.
job, right? I have a job to do, and that is be of service to God. Go out, help His children, because there's a lot of spiritually sick people. Not judging. That's not a judgment of people. There's a lot of spiritually sick people, and my job is to say, hey, I was spiritually sick too, and so I just know I have that job today, and if I do that job, my self esteem is good. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm
That's a great
thinking of you in
question.
the Apple store and just
Yeah.
like connecting with people that need that connection and helping them
Mhm.
find resources. And it just sounds like your heart is in such a place that you're recognizing that you feel good when you're having this kind of connection and when you're seeing people. I don't know the way you described maybe the way that you had to see people early on to sort of objectify. I don't know if that word lands for you,
Yeah, yeah,
but
sure.
that you've it seems like you've really shifted that and you can really see people for who they are and that you're seeing yourself for
Mhm.
who you are. Does
Yeah,
that feel true?
and yeah, and this is kind of a new agey type thing, but to hold space for others,
Yeah.
hold space for others. You know, when you're dealing with people, especially unhoused people in downtown Los Angeles, um, to know that they're coming from some type of trauma and to try to see it through that trauma vision of
Mhm.
what they've gone through, it allows for me to stay quiet and let them talk more. And instead of me being like, oh, I have all the answers, we'll come to go do recovery. And like, I get to go, they might not even be receptive to that right now. So
Sure.
just let me listen and acknowledge and accept their presence, and also to just make space for others, because that's what people just need today.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing how your intentions and your impulses to do that in your life.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, as I'm kind of just hearing your story, and I know there's so many layers to it, and I'm sure there's so many things we could probably talk for hours and like hear
Right.
and learn from things that you've been through. But I'm curious, what because a lot of our listeners will be those who are, maybe trauma therapists or in the field in some kind of way, mental health. And I'm wondering what you would say to folks that are working with these others who are struggling in some kind of way. Is there something that you could kind of offer in terms of, how we might um, see these folks in the way that you do?
First, I would say good luck. And thank you all. And I don't thank you everyone for doing the work that you're doing. Like, we need this, our society, our country, where, I see positive in what's going on. I think things are going to change, but I think it's going to take this mental health change that we talk about. Um, but for people, we think sometimes that people should get it, right? I want to grab a guy who's, coming around some of the programs of recovery, and I want to grab him and go, "Why aren't you getting this?" And I have to remember that sometimes I didn't get it for the longest time, and also, for so many people, that way doesn't work. Come on, get it, yeah,
Right.
it's more of that motivation of someday they are going to get it. And how can I put just an apple seed in their head that things are going to get better? If you start to try these other things, if you start to, because it's so hard, I know, for a lot of people, that it's like, well, in counseling, where people say, well, try this new thing. And we don't know if people go home and try these new things. We're just making kind of a suggestion, snap a rubber band on your wrist if you start feeling bad, and remind yourself of feelings, and whatever might work. I don't know. But just know that, we need, as a human race, to just be more great, have more grace towards the people that aren't getting it. And I also come from the school of, like, people aren't, like, born bad. There's just things that start to get broken, and then more broken and more broken. And are we people that come in and help mend things, or are we people that, like, sometimes break them more? You know, I'll share this, is that I was a hockey coach for a long time, and I coached kids, young players. And there was a couple things that had happened. One was, I noticed that when I coached, and say a player did something wrong. Again, now I'm traveling with kids from Iowa down to Florida, go play in national tournaments, and people are spending tons of money, and there's all this wrapped up in this young person playing a game on ice or on a floor, because I also coach roller hockey. But anyway, and I noticed that when I coached, when a player would make a mistake, I'd always bring them back, and you have to address the mistake, right? Because you want to get better. And so I would say, why'd you do this? And, but I always ended every conversation with something that they did right earlier in the game. I always ended somewhere on like, you really shouldn't have went after that player because he deked around you, and then he went on a breakaway because you committed, and you shouldn't have committed to playing on that play, and blah, 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 blah. I was like, but earlier, when you poke check that puck on that one play, perfect. Perfect. Give that to me again. Give it to me again. Uh, so when we lay some deep things on people, I have always found that it's accepted more when we back it up with the little "you did good earlier, you did good." So
So you're highlighting the strengths
yes,
and then
the
kind
big,
of working with here's kind of a growth edge. Here's a space that maybe we can keep working on.
yep, yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Does that relate to kind of your experience with yourself and kind of your recovery? I'm wondering if that's kind of a similar way that you relate to yourself of like, okay, here's something I want to shift, but like here's something that I did well and I want more of that.
Yep.
Does that feel similar?
Absolutely, absolutely works for me in talking to myself and self-talk. It's like, oh man, you really, I don't know what I would say. I really messed up today, but I do, But I would just think, oh man, that's it's an old mistake, and then I'll say, but look at where we are right now. It's okay. You're doing
Yeah.
okay. I'm always see because of my past. I have a real easy tool. Like if something's going wrong in my life right now, I always go, at least I'm not in a jail cell. At least I'm not waiting for commissary today. So I'm also really good at when I'm working with new guys in recovery is I bring up a lot of that type of stuff sometimes. And I just want, and that's maybe what we all can do is if you hear something that really downtime when a person's been arrested for drunk driving, right? And so when next time you're talking with them and they're talking about how horrible some situation is, be like, hey, at least you're not in court on that drunk driving anymore. At least that's over with, right? Because it always gives people that like, oh yeah, that was really, oh yeah, because that was horrible, and that's I do that a lot with people and with myself, you know.
Yeah. Frank, again, I'm just hearing this self compassion piece and helping others find their own self compassion of like, look how far you've come. You
Hmm.
were here and you've made all this progress and like getting in contact with that. It just sounds really important.
Yeah, and just what's so great too is that I get to think about like I'm 50 today. I'm 50 now, and no matter what age we are, like this world is hard. Like one little cell, one little vein in your heart collapses today for whatever you could die. There's an illness, there's like something. We're still here. You're still here. And one of the great Jewish thoughts is that the day you were born is the day that God said the world can't go on without you.
It's really beautiful.
So everyone has a purpose. Find your purpose. Do your thing. So many people didn't make it. So many people didn't make it, but you're still here. So go out, do your thing. And, I had a crazy saying when I was growing up. I used to say this all the time. In fact, any person that knew me or known me back then would tell you. I used to always say, I'm not much, but I'm all I think about. Right? I used to say that saying all the time. It was just like this. Someone said it when I was younger, and I heard it, and I run with it. And then when I got really in recovery and deep in the work that I get to do, I get to say this joke now where I go, I'm not much, but I'm all God gave me. Let me make the best of this thing and go out and just do the best job I can today.
Yeah, it's really meaningful. I wondered if we could circle back for just a few minutes. When you were speaking of kind of, well, you were describing like the curiosity maybe of those who were kind of talking to you about your growing up with Black folks and and your experience there, and that your curiosity, their curiosity, kind of was what landed for you, right? And I'm wondering how, like, what helped you kind of move out of that. How do I want to say this? What helped you put a different priority on whose curiosity you were holding as most valid? Does that make sense? Because at
No,
some point you moved away from that, and I'm just wondering what supported that shift for you.
my attention seeking,
Okay.
right? That's, good or bad or indifferent, seeking attention and a validation through others. Um, and again, the switch in that is that the validation that I get today in life, I guess, is I'm going to bring it back to the same thing, is that it's about this service to others. It's about when I'm talking with someone who's struggling today, um, and truly listening to them. But then only time, see, again, I don't share the deep, dark secrets with normal people like I was talking about, like I used to
Yeah.
do, because I thought
Sure.
that was normal.
Sure.
I only share those real stories for people that are struggling in those moments with those traumas.
Mhm.
That's it. And that's where I feel best talking about those things. Like um, because I think other than that, I'm just kind of running around being braggadocious. I don't know. And so that's where that switched to me. And that switched again. Again, I was out of the neo Nazis now for 30 years. That only switched for me 6 years ago because I still did it. I still had that issue where I always had to have validation from other people in that way. That sharing, the things I need a validation for now, I only share that with people to help them through some type of trauma or a recovery based thing, and it's where it feels most fitted and where
Mhm.
I feel even more comfortable talking about it. Where again before I felt comfortable just telling everybody and look
Sure.
at what I do, and today I don't like I really I feel
Mhm.
like an icky feeling if I even almost share too much with people that
Yeah.
don't need to hear it. So, just truly waiting for those opportunities to come up and share those stories. So,
That's really
yeah,
beautiful, and I'm really hearing in that you're just honoring kind of these internal boundaries to I don't know exactly the purpose for you, but I'm imagining it just helps you really stay with yourself instead
absolutely.
of maybe like giving over a story as if we owe it to someone. I'm hearing
Mhm.
your sense of like, this is mine. And it's really, I don't know if you do use the word sacred, but I know for myself, like some of those experiences or some of those stories feel really sacred. And maybe I'm not going out and like sharing them with everyone, but I'm hearing kind of your real valuing of that and acknowledging, just your own boundaries around that. Sounds really important.
Yeah, and it's because it's funny too. Is that like again? I use being out at dinner with friends, with normal friends. And normals are. I'm not trying to say that. The people that
Your
aren't
everyday
drug.
friends.
You know what I mean. So I don't want people to think I'm judging. But there's times when people will tell a story about a crazy moment that happened in their life, and for them it was the craziest moment. And I'm like, okay, I have like 10 stories in the chamber that would blow that story out of the water or whatever. And so as they're telling and everyone's listening, and it's so funny, I smile to myself where I'm like, just shut your mouth, Frank. Just shut your mouth. You don't need to say a word. You don't need to. But the story will run through my head. Like that was, crazy things that have happened in my life, and I really like not being the story topper.
Mm.
There's a lot of people who like to be the story topper, and I take a lot of I don't know, pride in not being that guy today. And so there's a
Yeah.
lot of times when I'm sitting at the dinner table or out with friends and they'll tell their story and I just, yeah. And
Yeah.
sometimes my wife will be like, didn't something like that happen to you? And I'm like, yeah, not like that though, because that's crazy. Just give them their space, give them their thing, make space for them. Oh, not like that. And my wife knows. She's like, no, your story was way more crazy. But she won't say that. But I could tell that's what because my wife will want to add me into the story, just
Mhm.
as friends go, oh, didn't it happen to you too? Or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, but not like that. Like, that's wild, dude. Wow. And what was your final result? Or I like to ask people a lot, what did you learn? Like, what did you learn out of that situation?
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
keep
Yeah,
it rolling.
again, I'm really just appreciating like your just the journey that must have been to really come from a place where needing that kind of external validation or attention and noticing like that shift of like I don't need that anymore. I don't need that to kind of survive or whatever. I can let them have their space and I can just listen and be a listener and holding space. That's really
Yeah.
beautiful.
And it's a sign of for me, it's a sign of self esteem, having good self esteem, that I'm okay with not being the guy, you know?
Yeah.
It's all good. It's okay.
Yeah. Frank, I'm just so appreciative of you taking the time with us today. I wonder, as we kind of move to close, I wonder if there's anything, maybe there's a story, or it doesn't have to be a story, but like anything from your experience that you would want to share with our listeners that might kind of help us understand even more. Um,
That, I'll share this, and again, I'm not trying to preach, but I believe that for me, the God that I serve today really uses the broken vessels to help others. Like and I think on our society alone, the broken vessels, when put back together, our light shines different, right? It shines a little different today. It doesn't shine like everyone else's because it's been broken and now reassembled. And I think that attracts others. And so, how do we use that today in a good? So, there's nobody, and I know it's hard for us to accept them, but there's nobody that can't be put back together, um, that can be that can still be used, if you understand
yeah.
that every human being if they have the capacity to listen, to learn, and they can, that broken vessel that they were gets put back together, that anyone could be used in a situation to attract different different people to them because of the way that they were broken and now reassembled. And so, it's people are not thrown away. Don't we could all be put back together. So
I love that. And it makes me think of what's the quote? The cracks are where the light gets in, right?
yes,
This
yeah,
idea of like when we're broken, like those are actually spaces where we can share our
yeah,
internal lights. That's what you said made me think of.
yeah. So there, that's what I would say to people, and not even just to think that you're thinking outside of, but even yourself. People that are listening, like you don't have to just think I'm talking about other people. It can be you. That there's things that happen in your life that have traumatized you, that have hurt you, that have broken you. Um, just know that those things could be the gift, and those are the things that within the light shining through that broken vessel that's been put back together, it catches the eye of the person that needs to hear it or see it or be felt or be heard.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Frank. I really have enjoyed this conversation, and I wonder if there's folks that are really feeling, the words that you've said have really struck something in them. I wonder if there's a way folks can get in contact with the work that you're doing, or do you have a website, or what's out there of yours that you can kind of share with our listeners?
Yeah, I don't have a website anymore. I used to,
Okay.
and I was like, but I'm on most social media
Okay.
network. So I just look up. I have a weird spelling last name, Meeink. So there's not. My family is the only family in the world with that last name. So you're not going to get mixed up if you find another Frank Mink.
Okay.
There's only
There's only
our
one of you.
family. Oh, the only one. Not much, but I'm all God
I
gave me,
love
right?
that. I love
So
that.
so reach out, and I'm always willing to talk with someone about addiction, about 12-step programs, all the different 12-step program. And the last thing I want to say, um, is that, so that's how people can get a hold of me.
Great.
But I just want people to know that how amazing the 12-step programs are for people. Some people are like, look, it's only 90 years old, the 12-step program. It only started 90 years ago. And it started because of the 21st Amendment. We can get into the whole history of it, but after they lifted prohibition, then only 2 years later, this group of alcoholics forms, which then later on, because of this 12-step format that they were written out and done, then we get Narcotics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Sex and Love Anonymous. There's over like, I can't even tell you how many anonymous groups there are that are all 12-step programs. And it's free. It's free. It's all around the world. When the pandemic happened, the 12-step programs came together, and there were Zoom rooms everywhere for people to get help. It's a gift. This is a gift. It's actually truly an American thing that we started and then gave to the world for free. And it's only 90 years old, and there's millions of miracles. So when you're helping people, I stress a lot is if they're struggling with addictions, the 12-step programs is one of the best solutions that we have. Maybe something will come along later. I don't know. I just know that it's one of the best solutions that we have, and it's made millions of miracles. Children aren't afraid to go home because dad's drunk. They're not scared who's going to walk in the door tonight because they know he's coming home or coming home from a meeting and he's got a couple years sober and he's become the good dad or a good mother. And man, it's a pretty amazing thing that we can do with each other. So
Thank you so much for sharing that. I
you
really
got it.
appreciate it and appreciate the work that's happening in those rooms and the
Yep,
connections that are being made. That's an amazing resource. So thank you for sharing that.
absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome, Frank. Well, we appreciate your time and just so grateful for you taking it this morning.
You got it. Thank you so much for having me.
You take care. Thanks so much for joining us for today's episode. To find more information about our guest, check the show notes or visit us at complextraumatrainingcenter.com/transforming trauma. You can also connect with us in other ways. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. As a mental health professional, your commitment to healing and growth inspires us. We at the Complex Trauma Training Center are committed to supporting you in your well-being and success. That's why we are honored to invite you to our Space Program 2026, an inner development program of support and self-discovery for therapists on the personal, interpersonal, and transpersonal levels. Running over 6 online sessions in 2026, this interactive experiential learning program is designed to support self-care and self-discovery for therapists exploring internally, relationally, and transpersonally. CTTC faculty will welcome you into a professional community of therapists that are seeking to create greater effectiveness and resilience in our professional lives. As CTTC faculty Brad Kammer says, the intent is that this program will help us not only become more effective therapists, but also love our work more. Please visit complextraumatrainingcenter.com and secure your spot in the 2026 Space Program. Thanks to Rig for producing and editing, to Tori Essex for our album art, and to Brad Kammer for the creation of this podcast. We look forward to building community and connection with you and changing the world by transforming trauma.